Boom. Hello, everybody. We need to get that clap down. Hello, everybody. Uh, Here we are for a new episode, and it's not an NBA playoff episode, believe it or not. So today we'll be going over the NFL offseason. So today we'll more or less be just discussing what teams have done in their offseason, free agency, trades, NFL draft class instead of naming literally every single person because I don't think you guys care about like the third or fourth stringers. I'll write down all the stuff at the top of the screen above me and Sam's videos of all their free agent signings, their trade acquisitions, and their draft classes and all that jazz. Yeah, it'll take me forever, but I'll get it done. I have like 3 days off this week, so hopefully I should be able to get it done by then. But first one we'll be starting off with is the Baltimore Ravens, namely some of the big acquisitions for this team in free agency. They re-signed, they got Gus Edwards. I think that was a re-signing, if I'm correct. They got Sammy Watkins for a wide receiver. They obviously need receiver help. They got more in the NFL draft. We'll be talking about that in a second. Alejandro Villanueva. I think that's how it's pronounced. I really don't know. But he's a really good lineman, obviously. Got him from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tyus Bowser's another really good player. Derek Wolfe, another really good player. So this will be yet another very good season, I think, for the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to be dangerous yet again. We were talking about the draft classes a minute ago. They obviously have Rashad Bateman and Tylan Wallace. They both got as wide receivers. I personally love both of them. I think they'll be a great help to this Baltimore team because, of course, last year their receiving core was really just made of a old and decaying Dez Bryant and Marquise Brown. And then that was really it. And they were the worst receiving core in the entire NFL. So Baltimore definitely needed receiving help. They definitely addressed that need, and that was really their main issue. And they went to work on it big time. What do you think, Sam?
I think the Ravens definitely made the improvements that they needed at receiving. Coming down from Buffalo, not entirely sure though.
Kansas City. He was a Chief.
That's right. Not like the Chiefs need more wide receivers or anything, so they can take one of them. Sammy Watkins. I just remember him too much from Buffalo. That's what it is.
Too much of him getting hurt.
Yes. They had Watkins. Rashad Bateman's a really good ad. Remember when Minnesota was Golden Gophers when they had a shot at the playoff run that and Rashad Bateman were a big part of that team, which got them the Big Ten. They really need to add that receiving because I see Lamar Jackson as he could be a type of player that could be like in Aaron Rodgers, where they just need help on the offensive line, really. And that's where one of my favorite players, one of my favorite offensive linemen, Alejandro Villanueva, comes in. And they signed him, and they get him for at least 2 years. That's what is guaranteed right now for that $14 million deal, $8 million guaranteed. Villanueva is a great offensive lineman, excellent pass blocker. See, he was keeping Ben Roethlisberger healthy, almost kind of like you weren't getting past Alejandro Villanueva. Obviously, Roethlisberger got hurt a few times, but what NFL quarterback doesn't get hurt a few times in their entire career? But really solid ads for the Ravens. Definitely going to be a playoff team again. We'll see how far they're going to go this year, and that will be a tight AFC North. That's for sure.
Yeah, the AFC North is really going to be good this year, of course, as the Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Cleveland Browns really at the top of that division. I mean, Bengals in some time, maybe if Joe Burrow isn't dead after tearing his ACL, MCL, 30 billion other things in his knee. Um, Speaking of the Bengals, that is our, well, or the Bungles, if people like to say that more. That'll be our next team here, and they got a decent amount of stuff in free agency. Us Lion fans actually know this one. Riley Reef has signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, for Cincinnati, really, anything helps if you can get any kind of talent on a team like that, especially offensive line help, because obviously the Bengals' offensive line last year was a major league problem, and it really it killed them big time. As basically, uh, oh, okay, but obviously Joe Burrow was running for his life all the time, and so it really made for a not good situation for the Cincinnati Bengals. And as I'm trying to find their draft class in here, I'm still scrolling through, but I do know that they got obviously Jamar Chase in the okay, there it is, Jamar Chase in the first round. Jamar Chase is a very good receiver, and of course he had Joe Burrow as his quarterback in college, so I understand why the Bengals made this decision to go and get Jamar Chase. But don't you think that the priority would be protecting your franchise quarterback who literally just tore his ACL, MCL, I think his meniscus too, but literally got his knee destroyed by the Washington football team because your offensive line wasn't good enough at blocking for him? I think that would be a priority. Obviously, they did not go and get who everyone thought they would get, which is Penny Sewell. He ended up coming here to Detroit. So I liked that fact, but honestly, the Bengals completely screwed up on that. Yes, Jamar Chase is a really good player. Yes, his college quarterback was Joe Burrow, but you need an offensive line, and they really whiffed on that in the draft. But they still got a lot of really good players. I like Joseph Asai from Texas. I think he's a really good player. Uh, they drafted Chris Evans. I don't think he'll make the team, but I loved him from Michigan. That was a 6th round pick. Uh, Other than that, I really don't see. Oh, no. Well, yeah. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot on this team. I mean, there's obviously Eli Apple, who they signed. I think he's a decent young guy. Uh, Trey Hendrickson's a big signing for them. So obviously a ways to go here for the Bengals to improve. But right now, good start.
Yeah, they really trying to bulk up the defensive side of Cincinnati. Not really thinking too much offensively minded ahead. They only picked up anything 3 to 4 people on the offensive line and guard included. I know they picked up in free agency. They picked up Riley Reef, former Detroit Lion, which we say thank you. Go ahead, take it. You wasn't anything for us anyway.
I believe he was a Viking last year. I believe that's where he was.
Right.
Yeah, he was
But
a
former
Viking.
Lion as well.
Yeah, Viking.
I do remember him as a Lion as well. That's what he's most memorable for.
Yeah, well,
And he's also most memorable for in Detroit holding offense. Whatever number Riley Reef is, because that was the number that was getting held every single time. It was Riley Reef. So I really don't think they did a good job focusing. They focused only on defense. They focused on cornerbacks, safeties, the D line. They did a good job in that aspect because I like Van Larry Ajun Joby, former Brown, I believe, signed to a 1-year deal. He's a really good defensive lineman. Trey Hendrickson, he's a really good defensive end. 40 or $60 million deal. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
So the Bengals are really investing in defense. And, they got to hope that somehow Joe Burrow just keeps himself alive back there. Because they just really heavily invested in defense this year. And we'll see what Bengals do from there.
Yeah, they did get Jackson Carman, an offensive tackle from Clemson in the second round, but obviously missing out and passing on Penny Sewell, I think, was a huge mistake by the Bengals not to go and get him. But moving on from the Bengals, we go to the Cleveland Browns, who just last year made their first playoff appearance since 2002 and then smokes the crap out of Pittsburgh Steelers in the first quarter. That was something else. That was a really good game by the Cleveland Browns, and really
Almost
in
put the Steelers back in it, though.
yeah, Steelers got back into it, and the Browns put them away pretty handily, and then put up a fight with the Chiefs. So really good showing from the Browns. Uh, I'm sure Browns fans were waiting for that moment for years. I thought it would have happened a long time ago, but it finally did. And well, this is what the Browns are capable of. I think they're a really good team. Of course, they are a really good team. And in free agency, they didn't do a whole lot, honestly, in free agency, minus the fact that they signed Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year deal worth $8 million. So just to say, Jadeveon Clowney obviously is a former number one overall pick. On the other side, the other defensive end is Myles Garrett, a former number one pick. So literally, both of their defensive ends are former number one overall picks. I know Jadeveon Clowney's a little bit later in his years, but obviously that is very, very scary considering how good Jadeveon Clowney has been. And when he was obviously in his earlier years, he's had injury history and hasn't really been performing as well as of late. But it's a risk. The Browns can take a risk. I think that's a very good signing by Cleveland. Other than that, I mean, there's a couple other guys on here. Maybe John Johnson's a decent one. Malik Jackson, I do like. Tariq McKinley is a decent player. Shad Higgins isn't bad, but they have like 30 billion receivers. They don't need another one. As for the NFL draft, though, I like their first two picks. Greg Newsome, corner from Northwestern. I do think he'll be a really good player. I remember him. I know there's two corners in Northwestern. I believe that got drafted in the first round. I can't remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure this corner was the one that made a very impressive pick against Ohio State in the conference championship game. He had a really good game that day. I think he'll be a really good corner in the NFL. And then the Browns got in the second round a gigantic steal in Jeremiah Owusu Kormora, a linebacker from Notre Dame. He was the number 2 overall linebacker, ranked behind Micah Parsons. I like him as well. I think he'll turn out very good for the Browns. I think they had an incredible offseason. I think they'll be dangerous once again and I don't know, maybe compete for possibly a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think I believe the Browns. If you're going to go play against the Browns this year, which is the AFC North team twice, you're not going to want to run the ball against this line. Oh my goodness. Malik Jackson, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. Oh my gosh. So if you're a QB, you're scared for your life just right there, those three names.
Yeah, and namely Joe Burrow.
Exactly. Who you have to play twice. Not once. Twice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they got their kicker back, Cody Parkey, who signed on a 1-year deal, who surprisingly did not do a bad job on the Browns. He hasn't done a great job other places, but on the Browns, he hasn't been like a complete choke like he has, like, I don't know, on the Bears. But
Cody Park, yeah.
pretty much another defensive-minded team, that's for sure, because they have plenty of offensive firepower. You look at, Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and
Kareem Hunt, OBJ, Jarvis Landry,
it's really just offensive power all right there.
Austin Hooper.
So they really went on defense as well, just like the Bengals, but they were a lot smarter because that's what they needed was defense. They needed mostly defense. What else we got? I'm pretty sure you pretty much covered it all. With Lake Jackson, Jadeveon Clowney is the huge ad there. only for 1 year too. So it's not like it's a huge risk like putting him on there. You can always re-sign him the next year. But good overall offseason right now for the Browns. Definitely competing for not just an AFC championship, but a Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, the Browns do look like a very good team coming into this season. Another team I think that could be actually pretty good coming into this season. I don't know about Super Bowl competition though, but I think they'll be in the playoffs. Is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So going on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, in free agency, they were able to get back Juju Smith-Schuster as he actually took a pay cut just so that he could stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as he only signed a 1 year deal worth up to $8 million. So I figured he would leave because the Steelers are in a crap ton of debt. They don't have a lot of cap room right now, and Juju Smith-Schuster took a pay cut just so he could stick with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a unique move. But if he wants to stay in Pittsburgh, he wants to stay in Pittsburgh. Um, they also they got Josh. Other than that, there really isn't a whole lot of big signings on here. I mean, I see Miles Killebrew, an old Detroit Lion, but no one really cares about Miles Killebrew. And other than that, there's not a whole lot in free agency that really sticks out to me. Maybe Zach Banner, offensive lineman, but other than that, not really. In the NFL draft, though, however, the first two once again stand out to me. Their first round pick obviously was the first running back taken in the first round, which is Najee Harris. So James Conner left the Pittsburgh Steelers in free agency. He went to the Arizona Cardinals. Congratulations, Trubinsky. You got a really good running back. Young running back, too. But Pittsburgh Steelers, they let go of him. They go and draft Najee Harris. Honestly, I liked it. I think Najee Harris could be a good running back in the NFL. Steelers obviously needed a running back when they decided to just let James Conner go, and Najee Harris was a perfect answer for him. I think he will be a nice running back for him. Fills a giant hole, obviously. And their second round pick was one that was a player that I really think is seriously underrated, and that's Pat Fryermuth, a tight end from Penn State. There were not a lot of tight ends in this draft. I believe there was one like Notre Dame guy, or no, that was last year Notre Dame guy. Pat Fryermuth, I believe, was Kyle Pitts, duh. But Pat Fryermuth was the number 2 tight end in the draft, if I'm correct. He's obviously not one. Kyle Pitts was one, but Najee Harris, or not Najee Harris, Pat Fryermuth from Penn State. I loved him as a tight end in Penn State. He made a ton of plays every time I watched Penn State. He was making incredible plays, incredible catches, and honestly, tight ends do really well in the NFL. So I think Pat Fryermuth is once again going to be a nice addition for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe they still have Eric Ebron as well, so I don't know what they're really going to do with him. But maybe they do 2 tight end sets of Fryermuth and Ebron, which honestly that's a little scary. But we'll see what the Steelers do. But overall, not too shabby.
Ebron seems like a big old fraud to me. He's just a drop machine. He was at least when he was on Detroit. And we just always seem to players from Detroit, don't we?
Well, they tend to do better every time they leave our city. So
Yeah. We've had on the offensive line in free agency, I noticed as well. Offensive tackle, offensive line, Zach Banner, Rashad Howard, DJ Finley, Joe Haig. So really, I think they're just trying to protect Roethlisberger now. Now that he's getting up, he's going to be, I think, 30. He just turned 39 this year, so he's getting up to 40. So Roethlisberger's not getting any younger. I think they should definitely start looking for a quarterback too. Pittsburgh Steelers should. Yeah, huge sign, re-sign, 1 year deal for Juju Smith-Schuster, taking a cut, really believing in the team, believing in their chances, and it really shows a lot of loyalty that Juju Smith-Schuster has to the Steelers, staying where he's needed. So it obviously needs like, dynamic playmakers, and because they had lost Antonio Brown, they had lost Hines Ward to retire or whatever. I like referring back to the Steelers back when they played Serbinsky's Cardinals back to that Super Bowl where Hines Ward had the tiptoe catch, but they had a bunch of explosive players in the offense, and the huge ad, obviously, in the first round, Najee Harris, tremendous running back from Alabama, couldn't stop this guy. He would either outrun you or run you over, pretty much. That's what Najee Harris did. Just like all Alabama running backs are pretty much taught to do. And Steelers got him, so definitely a playoff team. Playoff win, probably not going much farther than that because the loaded AFC that we have, that they have become now that they're the loaded AFC is Mahomes and now the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers. But you never know. It is the NFL, and it's only one game. It's not a series, so you don't have a lot of time. You just need to have that good hot streak at the end of the year, just going into the playoffs. And you never know what happens, but a good offseason for the Steelers as well.
Yeah, Steelers, I think, could be a decent team coming into the season. I think they need some work, but they can go somewhere for sure. So that'll be it for the AFC North. Moving on to the NFC North. We'll start with not a personal favorite of mine or of Wesley's. Obviously, we are all, you don't know Wesley, my brother, but if you don't know, all of us obviously are Detroit Lions fans. Personally, we all hate really the other teams. Personally, I don't really care about the Vikings, but I hate the Bears. I hate the Packers. I can't stand either one of them. We'll start with the Bears right now. Um, but honestly, in free agency, it's more or less just a mess. Honestly, their very first signing I see on here is Andy Dalton to a 1 year deal for $10 million that has a max value of $13 million. What are you thinking, Andy Dalton? And then they drafted Justin Fields in the draft. Like, well, okay, what the heck did you sign Andy Dalton for? Don't you already have Nick Foles? So now your quarterback room is Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields. That doesn't make any sense. But they did anyway, and for $10 million, that's like a lot of money for like probably a third string quarterback. But I love to see it because I hate the Bears. They signed Damian Williams, decent running back from the Kansas City Chiefs. Allen Robinson, they obviously franchise tagged. Allen Robinson's very good. Uh, Other than that, I see Desmond Trufant. They signed to a 1 year deal. Trufant's not too bad. Uh, they re-signed Cairo Santos because they actually got a legitimate kicker who doesn't double doink everything. Sorry, had to do that. Had to do it. Had to do that. Had to do that. I had to do that. But the Bears also got Tevin Jenkins, a tackle from Oklahoma State, in the draft. Um, he's a decent tackle. I figured he would go in the first round. He didn't. He slipped into the second. Good pick by the Bears. Hate to say it. But really, Justin Fields was obviously the big choice for the Bears. Getting him at 11 is a giant steal. Um, Obviously, for the Bears, that's a really good move. But signing Andy Dalton doesn't make any sense. While you still have Nick Foles, you're paying like $20 million. So really, I don't know where the Bears are going with this. Your thoughts on these guys?
Debacle situation known as Bears. um, Here's what I think. Andy Dalton for this money contract. I think they've got to let Nick Foles go somewhere else. I don't think Nick Foles stays on board with the Bears, whether he goes back east after the Eagles or whatever, maybe a third run with the Eagles. I don't know. Maybe just to be an experience or anything, just to help out the younger guys on the teams. I really don't think Nick Foles is a permanent stay on the Bears for now. Damian Williams is a good running back from the Chiefs. I because the Bears had gone downhill on the running backs. They who were the running backs? I forget.
Bear running backs. They got David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Cohen was hurt last year towards ACL, but David Montgomery had a okay season, I would say.
So year. So they need a more productive running back core, especially if you got players getting hurt and then others that just can't produce. Seemed like a mediocre team to me in general. Like I never really see them doing anything in the playoffs, or I don't see them getting the playoffs this year. Even when they had that run with Mitchell Trubisky, and they played the Eagles in the playoffs, that aforementioned double doink. Um, I don't really. The Bears just never seem like a team that could rise to the occasion. Like within a division where you have the Packers and the Vikings want to be good every once in a while, you don't really see the Bears as a stand-up team. Just like I feel like the Lions are never going to be a stand-up team. They've made it to the playoffs a couple times, but unless something changes from the inside out, then that's where you're going to see production happen for the Bears because it's got to start with leadership. I think they need new leadership, honestly.
I think most Bear fans would agree with you in saying that Nagy needs to go, or somebody needs to go, or fire everybody, or whatever the case may be. Obviously, being a Bears head coach takes a bit. It's a bit of a tasking job to say the least. Moving on to
They have no offense. Defensive minded team. They have nothing going. I think it has just a little bit of the pieces from the teams that you mentioned earlier. The Steelers, the Ravens, any of those players that would make the Bears a decent team. Phenomenal defense. Absolutely phenomenal. If they could just get something going on the offensive side, they need an offensive mind in the leadership because Matt Nagy is not cutting it out for the offense right now. Sorry, that's my little rant. I'll just get that out of the way.
Yeah, we might be ranting on the next team because that is our very own Detroit Lions. Yeah, well. moving on. Moving on. Let's just get this segment of the show over with here, shall we? Uh, Obviously, in free agency slash trades, there have not been any trades that we have gone over in any of these teams yet. The Lions are the first. We actually traded for obviously Jared Goff, giving them Matthew Stafford. I will miss Matthew Stafford very much. But we also end up getting 2 first round picks in 2022 and 2023. And we got a third round pick this year, who I believe we used on a Syracuse corner. But a really good trade by the Lions. Of course, we will all miss Matthew Stafford. I personally hate the Rams, so I don't know how much I'll be rooting for them. I'm a Seahawks fan. I hate LA Rams. But I personally love this trade. Jared Goff is only 26 years old. He's another 7 years younger than Matt Stafford. You also get 2 first round picks, and you got a third that you already used, but you got 3 draft picks out of the deal, third or higher, and a 7 years younger quarterback. You couldn't have asked for anything more. That had to have been the best deal out there. I think there was like a Panther deal where we would have gotten a number 8 pick, but I would take 2 first round picks. That's unbelievable trade by the Lions. That was an incredible move. I spent too much time on that. But moving on to the next one, we signed Tim Boyle. Yeah, that's a big nothing. Whatever. We got Jamal Williams. He's a decent player, decent running back. Obviously, a lot of rumors have been going around that the Lions will possibly sign Todd Gurley, who actually is still in free agency right now. He has not signed anywhere, so very curious there. I would love, honestly, to see Todd Gurley in a Detroit Lion jersey. I think pairing Todd Gurley with DeAndre Swift would be a very smart move. yeah, we would still have Jamal Williams on the team, who we signed for 2 years and 7.5 million. But if you can sign Todd Gurley to a really cheap deal, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. But it's up to Detroit, I suppose. Our receiving core, I think, will be very disappointing this year after we let go of Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, and then signed Rashad Perryman and Tyrell Williams. I'm sorry, that is not an answer. Those are terrible replacements. We also got back Darren Fells. Whatever. Other than that, I mean, we got Quentin Dunbar, who has a off-field history, so I don't know how that really helps us at all. Romeo Okora's a decent player, but we also signed him for 3 years and 39 million, so I hope he's worth it. And then we traded for Michael Brockers from the LA Rams yet again, and we gave them a 2023 seventh round pick. Michael Brockers is a really good defensive player. I personally I like that trade a lot. You don't really give up a whole lot, and you get a decent veteran. And then you gave him 3 years and 24 million afterwards. So yeah, personally, I like that trade a lot. And then in the NFL draft, we obviously got Penny Sewell, a tackle from Oregon in the very first round. That was an incredible pick. For as far as he had gone down, yeah, we don't need offensive linemen, but now our offensive line is just absolutely loaded. You got Taylor Decker, you got the gal Frank Ragnow, you got Jonah Jackson, now you got Penny Sewell. Add in the Eagles guy that we got last year. Forget his name. It's like it's hard to pronounce, but that is a really really good offensive line, and that's going to be devastating. And then you throw Jared Goff in the backfield, throwing the guys. We have no receiving core, but that is still a really good offensive line. Will really help for running the ball. Then we also got Amon-Ra St. Brown, a wide receiver from USC. I love that guy. He's a really good player. Really good at USC. That was a really good pick. And then we got two back-to-back defensive tackles. So that really bolsters the defensive line. Overall, the Lions did a great job in the offseason, which is really weird to say because we normally don't do that. But I think this was a really good offseason, but Lions still have a long ways to go before they make any kind of attempts at any kind of competition for anything. Now that I've taken 5 minutes, go ahead, Sam.
It reminds me a little bit of what the Chicago Cubs did. I know, making an analogy to baseball and football. The Chicago Cubs completely blew up their clubhouse, completely blew everything up. They said, all right, we're going to lose for a little bit, but then we're going to bring you guys a championship. And that's exactly what they did in the 2016 season. They brought home a championship after 3 or 4 years of losing seasons. You have to be comfortable with having a losing season because the Lions basically did pretty much what they're doing is a rebuild. They got rid of their star quarterback for the past, man, it's been like 12 years now.
He's been with the Lions his entire career. He's like 33, so yeah, it's gotta be close to that.
12 years. And we traded him out for Jared Goff to pretty much start anew again. And what the Lions basically did this offseason was build a foundation. They finally built the foundation. And where's that foundation start? It starts in the offensive line and it starts in the defensive line. For years and years and years, the Lions have been gashed in the run game. They have been absolutely torn to bits in the run game. Whether it's been with the Packers with Eddie Lacy or Aaron Jones, or with the Vikings with Adrian Peterson or Dalvin Cook, they have just been absolutely destroyed in the running game. Every single time they play anyone with a remotely average running back, that running back is getting to at least the linebacker who's about 5 yards down the field. So really happy with the Lions getting a lot of defensive tackles, defensive ends, trying them out, testing them out, seeing who's going to be first, second string, and just be rotating in a bunch. Is when you have a good defensive line, then that makes teams one-dimensional. They're going to have to start throwing, which Packers Bears, when they have Rodgers, if they have Rodgers, are a very decent throwing team. But Vikings are a heavily reliant run team right now because of Dalvin Cook and then washed up Kirk Cousins. See what he does this next year. But you start the foundation, defense, offensive line, so start with defensive line. How about the offensive line? And Sewell, yes, excellent offensive tackle from Oregon. They also got. Did I not get any more offensive line? Okay. Well, they really focused on the defensive line this year. And Romeo Okora and Michael Rodgers. They really spent a lot of money this year. If you think about it. The $39 million 3-year deal with Okora, $24 million deal with Rockers, the $7.5 million deal with Jamal Williams, and they spent a lot of money. So I hope they're really building the foundation for a successful team. It starts with the defensive and the offensive line, which as all line fans do, they hope for what could be a good future.
Yeah, another thing I actually forgot to mention about the Lions that our our great kicker Matt Prater has left us. He at least went to the Arizona Cardinals. So Sorbensky gets the pleasure of having a really good kicker. Instead, we got Randy Bullock. So Randy Bullock isn't a bad kicker. He is no Matt Prater, but he will get the job done for the Lions. We'll save the Packers for last and the Aaron Rodgers mess. So we'll go to the Minnesota Vikings, where the very first player I see is yet another former Detroit Lion, Amir Abdullah, but he sucks, so he's not going anywhere, even though he has re-signed with the Minnesota Vikings. They also acquired Mason Cole in a trade with the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for a sixth-round pick this year. I don't know what they used it on. I gotta find their draft class somewhere in here, but well, there you go. They also signed Dalvin Thompson, Sheldon Richardson. So the Vikings made a decent amount of moves in free agency. Still looking for their draft class, but honestly, overall, the Vikings are not a terrible team. Oh, there it is. Oh, yes, they got Christian Darrisaw in the first round, tackle from the Virginia Tech Hokies. They needed some offensive linemen, so that certainly helps. Chaz Surratt's a good linebacker from North Carolina. Their Kellen Mond pick from Texas A&M quarterback doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, especially when they have so much money sunk into Kirk Cousins right now. But still, I guess looking at the future, because obviously they're not going to keep Kirk Cousins. He's a bum. And other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of other moves that stick out to me for the Vikings. So I don't expect much from the Vikings this year. I think they'll miss the playoffs. They need some work in just about every. They need a little bit of work in every facet. Really, there's a hole in like one position, one way or another. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is really good for them. Kirk Cousins, their quarterback room needs some work. Their tight end room probably could use some work. There's holes. They need work. We'll see what happens with the Vikings, but I wouldn't expect too much out of this team. What are your thoughts, Sam?
Yeah. Not much to note on the Vikings. They did have 11 draft picks though this year. 11. They've finally gotten to a lot of their traded picks for this year for the 2021 season. Uh, One of the people stands out for me, Nick Vigil, former linebacker for the Los Angeles Chargers, signed a 1-year deal that includes more than $1 million guaranteed. I think that's a steal. He was a really good linebacker for the Chargers. I know, being a Las Vegas Raiders fan, that Nick Vigil is a really good linebacker for the Chargers. He's a pretty good run stuffer. He could cover pretty well too. So, and it's some defense. I really nothing really too much to note here for the Vikings. They got a lot of picks.
Well, actually, I did forget to mention this, but they obviously their big signings were really Patrick Peterson and Xavier Woods, but I mean those are really good players, of course.
Defense again, which I didn't Minnesota had on defense when I watched them last season. I mean, I feel like they had problems all over the place with people getting hurt and then just inconsistency on offense. Was Kirk Cousins going to be like a Tom Brady-esque type player this week, or was he going to be Kirk Cousins? Michigan
Oh,
State
he's Kirk Cousins on Monday until he beat the Bears.
Exactly. It's just the Bears and the Vikings. I feel like they have a lot of similarities, which is why they play really well against each other. They usually have pretty good games against each other. They have a lot of similarities, and then when it comes against the Packers, they choke, and then when they play the Lions, they just kind of mess around with the Lions and have fun.
Well, yeah, that's Detroit.
But really, I don't have much to say about the Vikings. Just want to kind of talk about the Packers and the Aaron Rodgers situation at this point.
Well, seeing that Sam wants to get on to that, I guess we'll head right into it. So we go to they're up here. The Green Bay Packers, who have a massive problem with Aaron Rodgers right now. So they're doing everything in their power to keep him there, or at least you would think so. Obviously, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what the heck we're talking about, here's the rundown on the whole mess with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. So obviously, for a while, Aaron Rodgers has been wanting help in the receiving core and the offensive line, and instead, all the Packers do is completely ignore him and just draft a bunch of defensive players and sign a bunch of defensive players. Okay, you know what we're talking about now. So they have signed a couple different quarterbacks because, well, they're scared he probably won't play. Because, by the way, they also drafted I think in the 2020 draft, Jordan Love, who they traded up to get in the first round to be Aaron Rodgers' replacement. And then Rodgers had an MVP caliber season the very year after. So obviously he was motivated to prove to them, yeah, I'm your quarterback. Don't even think about it. But in Packer fashion, they still didn't give him anything he wanted. Their first round pick was Eric Stokes, a corner from Georgia. That's not an offensive player. That's not even a lineman. It's a defensive player. No wonder Rodgers is irritated. You won't give him what he wants, which is a receiver that isn't named Devontae Adams. But I love to see it because I hate Green Bay with a living passion. I love to see the Packers completely blow up in flames, and I hope they lose Aaron Rodgers. I really do. I want to beat the crap out of Green Bay every single year. But they obviously re-signed Aaron Jones, their big running back, to a big-time extension. They re-signed Mercedes Lewis. God, he's got to be like 40 years old by now. But Mercedes Lewis, they re-signed for a 2-year deal, $8 million. Other than that, they signed Kevin. Re-signed Kevin King, who's a decent corner, and they got Blake Bortles. I like to call a whole lot on here. It's Green Bay. I don't like them. Let's move on. Sam, what do you think?
Like Bortles in the AFC Championship game. So you don't count him out yet? No, obviously. Not the best. Literally searching, hoping, praying. Every Packers fan is praying. Rodgers, please come back. And they're probably yelling at their executives, at their management and everything. Why don't you give Rodgers some help? Like, what exactly are the Packers thinking? They have literally one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league, top 5 for sure, in Aaron Rodgers. And you want to build up defense? I don't know. I feel like they already had a pretty solid defense. I think they need to build their receiving corps, much like the Ravens. Like they had their one-star receiver, Devontae Adams, just like Marquise Brown for the Ravens. They picked up Rodgers from Clemson. He's expected to be a second round pick. He dropped to the third round. So I feel like that was a pretty good pickup for Green Bay. But that was the only thing they picked up at wide receiver. And they had a good 10 picks in this draft. And they picked up a couple cornerbacks, center, offensive tackle, offensive guard, defensive tackle, running back, linebacker. You don't really hear much wide receiver, and then in the free agency, they didn't pick up any wide receivers either. I mean, huge that they put Aaron. They have Aaron Jones. They secured Aaron Jones. They secured one of their Aaron Jones at running back to the Packers. But much like Mitchell, I have a great disdain for the Green Bay Packers. I hate seeing them play at Lambeau Field. Get their song going with I don't want to work. I just want to bang on the drum all day. That song, it annoys the crap out of me whenever that's played. Mercedes Lewis is actually he's 37 years old. I looked it up. He's 37, so he's definitely getting up there in years. But ever since the Packers have been like scrambling around for tight ends too, not just wide receivers, but tight ends. They had Jimmy Graham at one point. Who else did they have at tight end?
Well, right now they had Richard Rodgers. They had at tight end for a while. They've also had Chase Sternberger. They had, but he's gotten suspended now as of late. So, of course, I talked about them re-signing Mercedes Lewis, who's actually older probably than Aaron Rodgers. So, if that's enough news for you there. But I mean, yeah, Packers. Yeah, they're dumb.
We'll see. So if Rodgers doesn't play, I feel like it's almost wide open for the Packers because you don't know who's going to be the leadership at the quarterback position for the Packers. Almost a wide open league, but it's definitely the Packers if Rodgers plays. But it'll be something interesting to watch this year for sure.
Well, it's not completely wide open because we suck.
Competition between the Vikings and the Bears. Sorry.
Yeah, and then maybe the Packers still, but you never know. Anything's possible. So that is actually all the teams. So the only thing I wanted to mention at the end was some like the bigger free agents that were still available in free agency and maybe where they'll end up going. Uh, by the time I just want to get this out of the way so we don't have to do it in our video. As we'll be doing these more and more, obviously. We only went through 8 teams today. We'll be doing the NFC South and AFC South next week. Yeah, next year we'll be doing 2021 reviews for the NFL offseason. But really, the couple players I look at in free agency here that really stand out to me, and I'm surprised to still see available, are guys like Quan Alexander and really Malik Hooker surprises me. 25-year-old safety who was an Indianapolis Colt. He's had a couple injuries, but 25 years old is really young for an NFL player. And to see someone who is a former first round pick still in free agency at only 25 years old is shocking to me. Le'Veon Bell still available. Oliver Vernon still available. Richard Sherman still in free agency somehow. There's a lot of good free agents still available, and it makes me wonder where half of these guys are gonna go. What do you think of some of these names?
Not going to know. Not going to go to
Good reason.
Um, yeah, really surprising. Richard Sherman is still out there. Malik Hooker. You think, is there something that we don't know that is going on in the background of these players' lives that is preventing them from being just, signed just like that onto a team? Is there issues in the home? Is there drug issues? Whatever. Something that an NFL team doesn't want to carry on their brand or just wonder if that player is going to be available in the next few weeks. Obviously, we don't know. Only the players know, the Player Association, the NFL owners, all that. Only they really know what's going on. That would be my take on why these people are still free agents. I mean, obviously, free agency happens. Sometimes you're just left in the dust because you're old, but you gave Malik Booker as a prime example. Someone who's not old, who's still ready to play, who's just on Indianapolis Colts. Great safety, great defender. It's it's just how free agency works. I'm sure they'll be picked up. You said Todd Gurley is still in free agency. He'll definitely be picked up by the mid off season or whatever. I feel like these players will be picked up. Most of them will be picked up, but it's just the wanting to take on that kind of, I don't know, not legacy. You don't want them to be necessarily the face of your program if you don't know exactly what's going on, which they do know what's going on, which preventing them from just being signed on the teams, or even it's contract negotiations or whatever. If they're trying or not, and the one player is just not cooperating with the deal that's going forward. Lots of things go into it, but at the end of the day, some of them will be signed, some of them won't be playing in the season next year.
Yeah, definitely curious to see some of the guys, some of those guys out there. So that'll be it for this episode. As of this moment, I am currently in the process of editing an NBA playoffs video. By the time this comes out, that will be out already. But at this time of this recording, we are recording this on June 15th, of course. But as of this recording, it is not completed yet. I am going to finish it, hopefully tonight. I am going to finish it. It'll be of round two, so you'll see stuff about the LA Clippers and the Utah Jazz, which I think that series is at 2-2 now. So
All of them are 2-2, besides the one that's over.
yeah, the one that the Suns ended up sweeping. Attaboy, attaboy Srbensky. But that'll be it for us. We'll see you on the next episode, whatever that will be. Might be an MLB episode, but we'll see you next time. Adios, everybody.